Hi, welcome to the Afrocentric Woman. I wanted to jump on here and have a conversation. Um, I was going to record a video about this, but I figured let me just go online and um, and do it live because it's on my mind and I want to get this information out. Okay, so I want to talk about helping your children when you have um, your ex is a narcissist or somewhere on the cluster B spectrum, and or they are just completely absent and neglectful of the child and you're pretty much doing most of the work yourself. Um okay, so let me this was on my you guys know I have a running list of topics to share with you. And this has been on my list, but let me tell you what prompted this to come bump to the top of my head. So, um I'm in the gym, and I go to a very like a small private gym. And so my gym pretty much gives me up close and personal interaction with people from very different backgrounds than mine. So I guess it kind of it expands my bubble for sure. Anyway, so I'm talking to this woman and we ended up having a conversation because one of the guys, he's your stereotypical underdeveloped male. Um he's your stereotypical underdeveloped black male, and he has 3 children with 3 different women. He was in prison for 10 years. He gets out of prison and, okay, so I think he had 1 or 2 children before prison, and then he had, like, so let me just say 1 before prison and 2 after. Let's just say 2 after prison and 1 before prison. So he's this older son, and then he has 2 other children that he got like immediately upon getting out of prison. Now, who had unprotected sex with a guy just out of prison? I don't know, but that lets me know a lot about the female, like it lets me know a lot about the woman's mindset that she sat up there and slept with a guy straight out of prison, unprotected, and conceived a child with him. But nonetheless, that's what happened. Okay, so this guy doesn't have a relationship with any of these children. And the older child is really grappling with the fact that, like, he was gone for 10 years. And so he was basically just whining and complaining, and he's married to this mammy. He's married to this super mammy who's older than him. I mean, when I tell you super mammy, I couldn't begin to tell you how much this woman is a mammy. I mean, she's not much of a pick She's a complete super mammy, super mammy. So, and she's like almost 10 years older than him, right? So mammy in every sense of the word. So the mammy just big upping everything he's saying. He's basically saying he doesn't have a relationship with any of these children, and then the oldest child is very upset and angry and keeps asking him why he abandoned him for 10 years. And he's like, well, it shouldn't matter. I'm out now. Now I have a good life and I'm doing right by you and I'm just trying my best. So it shouldn't matter. And I told him, I said, well, listen, and this is the thing about underdeveloped black males. Underdeveloped black males only want to listen to you when you are stroking their ego. They only want to listen to you when you are making excuses for their poor behavior. They only want to listen to you when you are saying, oh, my king, I love you so much. You're so fine. You're so handsome. You're such a good man. Then they listen to you. If you give them advice about how white supremacy is holding them down, they love you. They can't get enough of it. If you give them if you give them feedback about how the system is hurting them and how, the odds are stacked against them, or your social justice warring in the streets for them, they love you. But if you give them constructive feedback as to what is really happening in their life, then they blow up on you. They don't have the capacity to absorb feedback that is critical in any way. They are so hypersensitive that it's dangerous the way they violently react when you give them constructive feedback. And I said, well, um, we'll call him Derek. I said, well, Derek, you have to, put yourself in the child's place. you feel like you've paid your debt to society and you feel like you're ready to move on from it, but you have to understand that how difficult. And he's like, well, I've been out for I think he said 4 years or 6 years or however long it was. I've been out for 6 years. And I said, well, yeah, you might have been out of prison for 6 years, but think about the 10 years that you missed. Think about the formative years of his life when he was coming into puberty, when he was coming into, different things, when he was experiencing things, when he got bullied, and he didn't have his father there to help him and assist him. Can you imagine the resentment and the abandonment and the hurt that's building up into this child? What you hear is you think, and so the mammy is like, fuck that little N-word. He got a bad attitude. I don't give a shit. When I tell you this lady is an underdeveloped female, she is the epitome of underdeveloped female. And I guess they really are best for each other because she props him up in his bad behavior and for the means of controlling him. And then he has an audience of one that cheers on his poor decisions at every step of the way. So the mammy is like, yo, F that little N word. We try to do this for him. We try to do that for him. And he don't want it. Fuck, da da da. She just going off. And I said, listen, Derek, you are interpreting this child's bad language and his bad attitude as anger, but what's really inside is a very hurt little boy, and he really just needs a daddy. He really just needs somebody to support him. That's what he needs. And so Derek's response to me is, well, I've already tried. So pretty much like Derek has given up on all three of these children with three different women. He's just one of the children, he literally signed his rights away. And, make a long story short, um, one of the stipulations to see one of the children, because apparently one of the children got hurt under their care. And I know that that's very, I got bad vibes from it. And I don't trust the mammy with those children either. Like, I don't trust the mammy with those children. She seemed to have a disdain for this guy's children. So I don't know what happened, but I have to trust the mom's intuition. So if the mom doesn't want him going back over there because the child's already been hurt, um under their care, and now the court is involved, and they both have to submit to drug and alcohol testing on a weekly basis in order to keep it up. Well, he says, well, they both smoke weed every day and they don't want to stop. He doesn't want to stop smoking weed. So I said, well, Derek, basically what you're telling me is that you're picking weed over over your son. That he called me crazy. He said, you're crazy. Okay, fine, Derek. These underdeveloped males name call when they resort to name calling when you call them out on their bullshit, when you just speak plain facts and you say what's happening, because that's what's happening. The court is asking you to submit to drug and alcohol testing weekly. You don't want to do it, and those are the stipulations that it would take to see your son, but you don't want to do that. So basically what's happening is that you're choosing the weed and the alcohol over your son. Why can't you just accept that? This is the thing about underdeveloped males. If they don't accept the reality of the facts as the facts are, they're never going to be able to progress forward. And that is the facts as they are. That is the ugly, dirty, stank, nasty truth. And you just don't want to say it because it's more palatable. It's easier to say, well, the system and the court is keeping me away from my child. That makes you the victim. Not that makes you the downtrodden, oh, everybody goes on over the black man. But what's really happening is you don't want to comply with the orders. The court didn't make those orders for nothing. The child was injured under your care. Well, I took him to the hospital, but he shouldn't have never been injured. If you were sober, I'm pretty sure the child would not have been injured. Okay? So anyway, today at the gym they had an attitude with me. But anyway, one of the women that's in the gym, this conversation sparked about child support, about baby daddies, and about this and this and that. Listen, my situation is very different from the collective in this particular situation because I don't have any drama. I'm a very like no drama person. I'm a very like it is what it is. You fuck with me, you fuck with me. If you don't, you don't. You gonna do what you gonna do or you not. I've never gone back and forth with my child's father. When I was done, I was out. Get your shit, get up out of here, and I'm chunking the deuces. So I didn't have all that back and forth drama and all this and this and that that some people have. So I said, well, my case is real different. But one of the ladies was, after they had left, she was like, well, I tell my children the truth. And I let them know that their daddy, doesn't do for them. And then I let them know that he doesn't pay child support. I showed them the child support that he not paying. And I showed my kids how much he's in the arrears. I just keep it real with my kids. I just keep it real with my kids. And she said that at some point in time they'd end up going to breakfast, and the little girl, I think she said she was about 12 years old, asked dad, why are you behind in child support and why don't you come and see us? And then apparently the dad really didn't have a proper response to that. And I talked with her and I think she understood what I was saying. I said, listen, I understand your desire to want to be honest with your children, but at the same time, you know, you have to understand from a little girl's perspective. Um, Children are supposed, they seek love and acceptance and validation and support from both parents. And so if one parent is rejecting, neglecting, abusing the child oftentimes internalizes that abuse, neglect, abandonment as a personal issue against them. So there's so many children who carry the burden of feeling like something is wrong with them. My daddy doesn't love me because something is wrong with me. There's so many women who end up in chronic narcissistic relationships because they could never win the approval of their father. They could never garner his attention. They never got invited. They never could go do the daddy daughter dance. They could never do the cotillions with their dad. Their dad wasn't there to grill their prom date. Their dad wasn't there, it just was absent. And so a lot of times that information is internalized. So I said the next step, now that she has the information, because I do believe that children need some level of the truth, but that truth needs to be age appropriate. So a 5-year-old will not be privy to information that a 17-year-old is privy to. So you have to tailor the information based on how old the child is. But this is a critical step. This is the critical step, especially when you have a narcissistic AWOL dad. You have to continuously reinforce in the child that they are lovable. You have to continuously reinforce in the child that they are lovable and that they are worthy, and that you have to separate the father's individual actions and choices as his individual actions and choices that have absolutely nothing to do with the child. And you might think that this is a given, but children take everything personally. They take divorce personally. They think they did something wrong. When their dad doesn't call them, they take everything personal. A child's world is very small. It's very, you know what I mean? A child's world is very small, they're very naturally self-absorbed. So they think everything is because of them, or they have some bearing on it, especially when it comes to their parents. So yes, tell them the truth at an age-appropriate way, but you have to create that separation, and it's not a one-time conversation. It's not a one-time conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. You're constantly, because every parent has the duty to build up their child's sense of self-worth, their sense of self-esteem, their sense of lovability. That's the parent's jobs. And so when you have one parent that is AWOL and or abusive, you have even more work to do to build up that child's self-esteem, their self-worth, their value, and understanding that helping them see who all loves them in their life. Grandma loves you, or grandpa loves you, your uncle loves you. You have to point those out. And then when the unhealthy parent does something that is petty and that is unhealthy, that is not becoming of a parent, you have to just don't be emotional with the child. Just be very matter of fact with the child. Oh, so your dad said he was going to call you. He didn't call. But who in your life calls you when they say they're going to call? Well, I talk to my granny every day. Okay, yes, because granny wanted to call you. You have to, baby, your daddy has some issues that for some reason he doesn't keep his word. He has a problem keeping his word. So in that way, what you're doing is you're making it about the unhealthy parent's actions, but you're not making it in correlation to the child. This is very important to help them understand, because children, as they continue to develop themselves and understand what is a healthy relationship, what should I expect from people in my life that love me? What is love? And so they have to start to understand that. And when you make it clear, these are the actions, these are love actions, and this is the type of consistency that you can expect from people that love you. And this is across the board. Nobody gets a pass to treat you any kind of a way. So, oh, well, these people have to treat me like this, but my family can abuse me. No, nobody can abuse you. Nobody can, constantly go off on their word or do something that's unbecoming, that is not healthy. So helping them understand those are the kind of skills and insight that's going to let them be successful in creating healthy relationships down the line. And I have one friend who, I don't know what the hell is wrong. Like, her skull is so thick. It's so freaking thick, because she has a narcissistic ex, and she's constantly putting her child in the line of fire with this narcissist, and constantly like, oh, well, your dad's not doing this, your dad's not doing that. And I keep telling her, you need to continue the conversation to help your son understand that none of this behavior has anything to do with him. And for some reason, this is not sinking into her head. But whatever, that's going to be what it's going to be. I wish him the best. I hope everything comes out. But honestly, I've told her, you need to minimize the influence as much as you possibly can, because he's very malignant. He's already on his second marriage. Already on his second marriage. He's just a chronic baby mama creator, very toxic and very malignant. And I'm like, at this point in time, you really probably like don't want to his influence on your child. There's so many times I see women forcing their kids on narcissistic or abusive people, because that's what society says you should do. Well, society says that he should have them every other weekend, so I'm just going to do it. You just going to send your child to an abusive household voluntarily? Make it make sense, Sheila. I'm just making up a name, Sheila. Sheila. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Absenteeism sucks. Absenteeism sucks. I was abandoned by my father. He was abandoned by his father. So I don't know what they're talking about. This whole welfare took the man out of the house. My grandfather is well, I don't know what generation comes before the baby boomers. I don't know what generation, but whatever generation comes before the baby boomers was my grandfather. He abandoned the family too. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The welfare pushed you out. No, y'all been on some fuck shit for many generations now. Let's just be honest about that. And until you are, see, this is the big holdup. Until you're honest about this multi-generational fucked up pathology, we are not going to get to where we need to be. We're not. You mean to tell me my baby boomer dad was AWOL, his dad was AWOL, but y'all want to make this seem like this is some type of new thing? No, this is not a new thing. But I think that those are the main things that I've seen. And then another big fallacy that I see with people trying to support their children through having a narcissistic dad is saying, "Oh, but your dad loves you. I know he does. I know he missed your last 3 birthdays and haven't came by and haven't called you, but he loves you." This confuses the shit out of the kids. This confuses the children. How is that love? You mean to tell me this man loves me, but he's not here? Or he loves me, but nothing that I do is good enough for him? He only wants to show me off and use me as an accessory, but this is supposed to be love? Or he beats me and this is supposed to be love? Or he berates me and this is supposed to be love? You're saying that because that's the way society says it should be. A dad should love his children. A mother should love her children, but that's not what the fuck you have going on here. This man don't love this baby. You don't have to rub it in your child's face that the daddy don't love them, but don't confuse them either. Don't say that because it's just a nice thing to say, because you are making their development more challenged. You're making it more difficult for them in the future to navigate and to find healthy relationships by misnaming what's happening. I've never told my child that. And in fact, today, because she listens to some of the little content and stuff that I may have on, and she asked me, well, she knows what it does. She kind of knows what a dusty is now. So she'll be like, Mom, like, what's a dusty? And I'll tell her what it is. And I'm trying to think of what she said today. She said, I think she said, what is a simp? What's a simp, Mommy? And I said, well, a simp is a man. It's not a word that we use. I said simp is not a word that we use. Most women don't use the word simp. A simp is a thing that dusty men say for men who are providers. Men who are providers are good men. Those are the men who share with their wives and children. And she says, "Does Daddy share with you?" And I said, "No, he doesn't." And she just was like, kind of like, she just knows she don't want to admit her dad is dusty, but I don't have to tell her that explicitly, because if she keeps asking me questions about what is a real man, what should I expect, and like how, you know, she's going to come to her own conclusions. I don't have to force feed anything, and I also don't have to lie. I don't have to lie. Now, let me backtrack back to the whole child support and the arrears part. I really don't think that that's children's business. I think that that's for adults to work out the finances. I don't think that children should be privy as to your dad is in arrears of child support or whatever the case may be. And here's how much it is. I don't, I think like maybe once they're older, like if they're adults and they still been in their arrears, and then it's going to end up, maybe garnishing their wages or something, the other parent, the dad's wages, then I think maybe at that point they're probably mature enough to handle that information. But I think as small children, I don't really think that they need to be privy to that. Um, what's owed, and I certainly don't talk to my daughter about her dad not, not, so what if he sends something or if he doesn't, which he usually doesn't. I don't disclose that. I really don't think that that's children's business. But it is important for her to understand what she should expect from a man. And at some point in time, she is going to come to the conclusion that her father is dusty. She is going to come to the conclusion that he's inadequate. He's not a high performing man. He's not really a man performing really at much any level right now. He is selfish and self-centered. And I think that with time, she is going to realize those things on her own. But all along, I constantly point out the healthy relationships that she does have with other family members. Constantly. And helping, and even when she talks about little things at school, oh, this person is mean to me, and da, 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 da. Well, is that a good friend? So I ask her, is that a good friend? Is that what good friends do? They don't share, or they take stuff from you, or they call you names. Is that a good friend? Do you call your friends out names? Are you supportive of your friends? Well, what children in the class do you have fun with that share with you? Go over there with those children. So those are the kinds of conversations that we have. And I think that it's across the board. Anybody can get it. I don't care if you're a family member or whoever. These skills are vital, because if we are truly going to break this cycle of abuse where women end up with dusties and end up being single mothers because they don't have the skill set, they don't have the knowledge base, they don't have the experience in choosing and creating healthy relationships, then we're going to be doing all our children are going to be having these exact same conversations that we're having now. So the real way to break the cycle is to give them the proper support. And it's hard. It's very difficult when you have a narcissistic parent, because you're pretty much doing everything by yourself. And that was another thing I mean, I've told my friend this for years, like, you're not co-parenting. You keep saying that, but that's not what's happening. You're parenting by yourself. And he occasionally pops in and out, but that's not what co-parenting is. You don't have the ability to co-parent with narcissists because they're not really adults. They're like chronological adults, but they're very underdeveloped. They have arrested development internally. So they don't even have the maturity to do parenting, make parenting choices. So it's hard. So if you're doing it, trust me, you're not alone, and you can get through it step by step, and just continue to support your children, and give out age appropriate information, and try to explain things to them, very, very basic, try to break things down. So try not to leave so many things unsaid, but address things and fill in the gaps, so that if they don't internalize the neglect as a personal issue, or they don't internalize the abuse from a personal issue. And also, on a side note, shield your child from as much abuse as possible. And I do have a video about medical neglect from narcissistic parents, and refer to that for sure, because that help. I do talk about how some things that you could do to try to protect your child. But go follow every single avenue that is in front of you, that you have to protect your child. Use it. Use it. Don't let a court order put your child in harm's way. So whatever you have to do, be creative, and document, 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 document. Write everything down, because you never know, even though it may seem very minuscule, you never know when documenting what is happening on a day-to-day basis with that abusive parent could help you in the future. So good luck. You're not alone. And thank you for listening. All right. Peace.